All right, let's open up a case file on a mystery that has stumped people for ages. The notoriously tricky case of English grammar.
Oh, come on, think back for a second. For a lot of us, it was probably our first run-in with the law. You know, the laws of language. You know how it was, right? It felt like someone just handed you this dusty, ancient rule book. No story, no context, and definitely no fun. It was just this long list of do's and don'ts that honestly left most of us feeling completely lost. A real cold case. But hang on, here's a thought. What if we just threw that old rule book out? What if instead we put on a trench coat, grabbed a magnifying glass, and treated every single sentence like a clue in some big, compelling mystery? So, welcome recruits to the Grammar Detective Agency. Your first assignment, you've got to master your most important piece of detective equipment. And that would be modal verbs of deduction. I know, that sounds super technical, but really, it's just a fancy name for the words we all use when we don't know something for sure, but we've got evidence. Think about words like must, might, could, and can't. This isn't about knowing the facts cold, it's about interpreting the clues. Okay, so this is where the real detective work kicks in. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you have a simple fact, a piece of evidence. The lights are on. Simple, but a detective doesn't stop there, right? They make a deduction. Someone must be home. You see that jump? That's what we're talking about. You're using evidence to build a theory. It's the difference between just seeing a footprint and figuring out who made it. All right, every detective needs some training. So let's start with a little warm-up case, something straight from the training academy. We are now opening Case File A2. The mission, should you choose to accept it, is simple. Identify a mystery location based on a series of clues. So here's the rundown. One person, let's call them the informant, reads out the first clue. Then the other detectives start making their deductions. It could be an airport, or, well, it might be a train station. See? They're using those modal verbs. Then a new clue drops, which narrows down the possibilities until, bam, case closed. They guess the location. It's a pretty simple game, but it really gets those deductive muscles working. Okay, our rookie detectives are all warmed up. It's time to graduate to the major leagues. Now the cases get a little more complex, and the stakes get a little higher. This is Case File B1. We're not just guessing a place anymore. Oh no, we are solving a disappearance. So check this out. In this scenario, the detectives get this pile of seemingly random evidence. A couple of names, a location, and 6 totally unrelated objects. And their job? To somehow weave all these clues into a coherent story that explains a missing persons case. They have to write up a full theory, connecting all the dots, using, you guessed it, those essential modal verbs. You know, the victim must have known the suspect. He could have used the rope to escape. And here is the absolute key. It's not about finding the one correct answer. It's all about building a plausible argument. The game actually rewards the best theory, the most creative, most logical story you can build from the evidence. And that shifts your brain from just passively memorizing rules to actively solving problems. It turns grammar practice from a total chore into a super cool creative writing challenge. So, we've looked at the method. We've examined the case files. Now, I think it's time to bring in the evidence and deliver a verdict. I mean, this all sounds great in theory, right? But does it actually hold up in the real world? Does this whole detective agency approach actually get results? Well, let's hear from some agents out in the field, the teachers who are using these methods every single day. Okay, our first piece of testimony comes from Jose Pinto in Timor-Leste. He reports that with these games, his students never skip class. They don't even feel tired. I mean, that speaks volumes about motivation, right? When class is a mystery just waiting to be solved, you're going to want to show up. Next up, from Switzerland, Corinne Kiss testifies that her lessons have become, in her words, way more playful and varied. And this isn't just about the students. It actually transforms the entire vibe of the classroom from, a rigid lecture hall into this dynamic, fun workshop. And this one from Julia Lola in the United States points to just how organized this whole approach is. It's not just random fun, it's targeted practice. Teachers can actually find a game for a specific grammar point they need to work on, which saves them a ton of time and makes their lessons way more effective. So when we lay out all the evidence, a really clear pattern starts to emerge. All the testimony points to 4 huge benefits. Engagement is way up. Learning actually becomes playful. Teachers save a ton of prep time, and maybe most importantly, the students really truly understand the concepts better. The case is becoming pretty solid.
So, after reviewing all the evidence, the verdict is unanimous. By reframing grammar, by changing it from a boring set of rules to a fun game of clues, we can turn reluctant students into eager detectives. It just seems that when learning is a game, everybody wants to play.
Which leads us with one final, lingering question to think about. We cracked the case for grammar, but what about everything else? What if the hardest, most boring, most complex subjects we have to learn were all taught not as a lecture, but as a game just waiting to be won?